Hello and welcome back. I'm Randy Newbert from VoodooFX. In today's short video, we'll be doing assembly work on the 2049 baseline model from Yay Monsters. So let's get started. Okay, so here we have the baseline model kit from Yay Monsters, and I'm getting ready to do some of the final assembly work on this model. Basically, I've prefabbed some of the stuff up, but it's all just sitting in there loose right now, just to give you an idea of the parts that have been prepared and ready to go. I went ahead and actually assembled this main scanner piece, just because it was simple enough to, there's only two parts on here and it slides right into the case, and just put a little glue on there and that's it. So I got this piece prefab. These parts here are all sitting loose, and just the eyepiece in here, and all I'm going to use in this part is just to use a little bit of silicone. I'm going to use some clear GE silicone to actually mount the lens piece in the little ringlet, and then this piece will be mounted in place. This piece is popped in a little bit harder, and this small, again, another lens piece, this will also be using a little bit of clear silicone, and I'll just attach it to here. And then I have to work on the lighting and get the lighting together. There's also a small clear lens part that goes behind here that's lit with a 5mm LED to go up into here, and it'll light this little area down here, so it'll be fully illuminated. But let me go ahead and start the assembly work, and I'll just kind of let the video run through, and I'll just show you guys how I'm going to be putting this together and getting it prepared. So let's move on to the next session. Okay, so what I'm getting prepared here is I've got most of these parts already, like I said before, was prefabbed. I have to mount these rail assemblies onto the main body. And basically these are all prepped out, and I've sanded the bottoms of these and gotten these ready to go. I'm going to use just a little bit of CA on here, just to mount these, and I'll use a little pin to actually hold them into place. What they've done with the model kit, which is really cool, let me pop these out real fast here. Since the model kit already comes with the holes already pre-drilled for the rails, it'll make it very easy, and these are also pre-drilled, so when I go to set it, I can just take a little pin, and I'll use the pin to give me alignment and guide so I get these nice and straight, and then I'll find the pinhole, put a little glue in there, and I'll pin them from end to end, and then just set them in there, and these will be really simple to mount, and they're both done on the top side and the bottom side, so these are already kind of laid out for you, it's really nice the way they did that. This really is helpful. So anyway, so let me move on here. So what I'm going to do first is this small lens piece that comes in the kit needs to be sanded on the end here, so it makes some diffusion. So when you light it from the back side, it'll actually light this thing up properly and make it look right. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that right now. I've grabbed a little piece of sandpaper, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay it and flat sand it against here. I'm just going to go along here and kind of roll it around and get it diffused. And if it's a little lower than the actual flush to the bottom, it's okay, because the light will penetrate it anyway. So just going to go ahead and kind of do this a few times until I get all the burrs and the corners off of it. And you can kind of see, I'll show it to you right now as I'm doing this. And it's almost there. You can kind of get an idea. I still got a little corner there to go, but it looks pretty clean. So all I need to do is just keep going at it until I get it all the way diffused. And then this part will be actually mounted on the back side of the main body part. And I probably can just get away with either tacking with a little bit of CA, or maybe again I'll go back to using a little bit of that silicone and just go ahead and just silicone it on there. Clear silicone on these parts are really nice, especially when you're dealing with like lenses, anything like that, because you can just put a little bit of a dab of the silicone on the bottom and then just kind of smush it into place. And the only drawback is you're going to have to let it sit for a while so it actually gets fully cured, and it usually takes about 24 hours. But this glue that I'm using, I'll show you what the product is a silicone glue. So it has kind of a little bit of tack or adhesive properties built into the clear silicone, which really is helpful. So that's pretty good and diffused. You'll probably just do a little more, kind of just get it to even out a little bit. I actually found out that sometimes if you do, you sand it a little rougher, that it actually does a better job at the diffusion because you get a little bit more lines in the sanding. And this creates a nice diffused effect. So it looks pretty good. And I think that's going to be fine for this. I can test fit it against the main body part. And it's going to fit right inside this left lower mounting spot. And then on the back side, you can see it's right underneath there. I probably could have fabbed this section. This piece comes in two parts and you glue them. But I wanted to kind of make it all together as one. I always think it makes a little bit tighter of an overall model part or a prop like this. And again, these castings are just tight and fresh, really nice. They took the paint really good. So let me go ahead and I'm just going to test fit this a little bit and just try it in the pocket. And it has a little flange or a little flare on it. So when you actually get it to sit in the cup, it should just pop right into place. And I think I am just missing the hole just by a little bit. Let's see if I can get it in here now. Of course, the second I get it ready for camera, it's going to be fighting me. Before I just popped it right in and just went right in there. So I think it's close. But again, this model was very well engineered. So it is made literally to fit right in place if I can get it to go. Okay, well, I think what I'll do is, oh, there it is right there. It's nice and smooth in there. Oh, because I did it down a little lower. So that's how it's going to kind of look if you're looking around, oh, I know why I'm in the wrong, I'm in the wrong location. Okay, now I know why it would want to fit. So here it is. Oh, bingo, there it is. So it went right in. I was trying to jam it in the upper hole, which is the wrong hole. It's actually on this lower side. So there it is, and that's what it's going to look like when it's diffused. I can do a little test. I think I maybe will show that right now. Let me grab an LED, and we'll just do a quick little test. Let me clean up my mess here a little bit. I'm going to get all this all dirty, and I'm going to grab a little tester LED, and it's going to be kind of in a diffused white color is I think what we're after. And I probably could get away with just a standard white LED. I think will do the job. And let me do a couple tests here and we'll give it a shot and see what it looks like. So I got a standard 5mm LED, and actually it looks like, I'm thinking that maybe these are actually spec'd for a 3mm, because the hole looks a little smaller. I can double confirm that with the manufacturer, or I could give a call to Yay Monsters and find out. But it looks like it's swimming in the 3mm. But boy, that puts out a lot of light too. So what we're after is a real kind of flat, even lighting effect. And I'm going to grab a white. And I might have to modify the hole just a little bit to get it in there, but here I'll show you what it looks like. So this is what we're after, and I think I can get it in camera pretty good here and you can see it, but that's kind of the feature that we're looking for, which is just a really nice kind of flat white color, and that is the effect. And then I can test it also against the actual part where it's going to shine through. And when you look at it there, that looks pretty good. So anyway, he made this really custom little part, the way it's casted, and it has all the little circles in it, and that looks really well lit. Let me bring it up into camera a little more so I can show you how cool this part really actually looks. So I wonder if that can get in camera a little better. But let me see if I can get it. Can I get it to look any better there? Maybe. So anyway, so that's what it's going to look like as far as the lighting goes for this one part. And there's only one light that is on this actual model itself. So I'm going to just go ahead and prep this out a little bit more, and then I'll start doing some of the assembly work. So let's move on to the next step. Okay, so moving along here, what I've done is I've broken down the lens parts now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to flat sand the bottom side of each of these little rings in order to give them a little bit of adhesion to the actual body part. So all I'm going to do is just flat sand these, and what I'm looking for is just to give it a little bit of something to mount to when I go ahead and glue them in place. You don't have to really go to town on this too heavy. They fit so well that you basically don't need a lot of glue or anything just to get them mounted. And again, since I'm using the clear lenses, I'm a little bit cautious about using any kind of CA just because I don't want to frost the lenses. So that one looks pretty good and prepped. Now I'm going to start on this one, and this is the larger eyepiece that I'm going to do. Again, just going to flat sand it a little bit, and this will help flatten it down and give it a little spot to stick to. And that looks pretty good. I see a couple spots here and there. And what I also might do is I might cross hatch it a little bit on the bottom with the razor knife or the hobby knife, just so I make sure that these parts really stick on down to the white. And what I'm also going to have to do is scuff sand the areas where I'm going to glue onto the main white body parts. If you don't scuff them a little bit, they'll break bond after a pretty short period, and you probably want to try to avoid that. And these rings, I already cleaned the rings up, and the rings fit really nice and tight, so I don't really need to do any scuffing. I mean, I could do a little bit on here, very lightly, because they're already so well fit that all you need to do is just put a little dab of glue on there, and they'll stick right down. So I think what we'll go ahead and do is I think I'm going to move forward and just kind of put these rings together. I'm going to dust this stuff off and get it nice and clean. Again, I have to prep some of the white part as well, but I think that I could go ahead and I think what I'm going to do is just, again, I'm going to cross hatch this a little bit. So what you want to do is take your hobby knife, be real careful, and just go ahead and scratch it around the edges where it's going to sit, because it's got the big open spot in the middles. And then I'm just going to give a little, I'll scuff it one way, and that's just for around the rim. I can feel it right now already. And what's nice too is these are already cast in black, so the castings are just so cherry. I don't think I'm going to need to even paint them, because they're already, but you know, that's an option. You can paint them out or just leave them the way they are and shoot a little clear over them and call it done. Again, the castings are so sharp and so clean. I'm not really too worried about it, and I'm not going to be putting it in a UV situation, so should be there. Now it's nice and scuffed. It feels real good. So this will really take to silicone or CA really well. I'm going to do the same with the small one. Just going to go all the way around. And just again, you just kind of, you cross it one way, I'm just going to go along here and keep going. That looks pretty good. I can kind of feel it. You kind of feel the ridge. And then I'm going to switch directions. And I will cross over it the other way, hence the word crossed hatching. Again, when you're adhering parts, this is a great way to get parts to stick. It's kind of overkill in some ways, but if you really want parts to really stay down and stay down good, if you do this method, you'll get parts to stick like really well. So that's it there. Feels pretty good. You can do a little soft clean on it just to kind of break it down. I'll do the same with the big one. And then these parts are prepped and pretty much ready for glue. I'm going to do this small one where the eye is, that's going to be lit. I also want to cross hatch this one too. It's going to sit and kind of free float on the top of the diffused clear part that's going to be lit. But again, I want decent adhesion to it. I don't want it to pop it off or get it to come out of place. So again, we're going to cross hatch the part and just keep going around. That looks pretty good. Got a couple shiners here and there. Let's break it the other way. Again, being very careful not to cut your finger, which I have done in this situation. I actually did it a couple days ago. I cut myself pretty good. And boy, when you cut a finger, man, they just won't stop bleeding. So there we go. That's pretty good. And again, I'm going to just kind of rub it against the sanding paper a little bit, nice and flat. And that's it. That's prepped. So this piece is ready, and I can put the clear part in there. And then I'm ready to mount also these clear lenses and put this together. Now the next step, I'm probably not going to go into full detail about how I'm going to do this, but I think everybody will get the idea. What I'm going to do around here is I'm just going to basically take a little bit of sandpaper and maybe the razor knife, but I got to be very careful around the edges. And I'm just going to scuff around these spots so I can get adhesion when I go ahead and sit these in there and glue them down. And the same thing for this on the top of the rail. What I've done is, again, I've already pre-sanded this, and this is prepped and ready to go. What I'm going to do on these is I'm just going to put it on there very lightly, and then I'll tape this area off on both sides, and I'll just sand this whole edge really quickly. And I probably should show that, how I do that. And then that way, when I go to set it down in place, I only need to put a couple little drops here and there of CA, and this thing will be solid as a rock. But I do want to make sure that I get adhesion against there. So let me get prepped and let me do that one right now, and then we'll move on. And then also I wanted to show you guys kind of what I use here for a lot of things that I put together. I use this GE silicone glue. This is a really high-grade premium glue, but it also has all the properties of clear silicone. Awesome stuff. Used it in many applications, and it's 100% silicone, but it has the glue property. So like when you press it down and push it together, it's got a little bit of stick. So it's it just gives you a little bit better stick to sticking parts. But I highly recommend using this product if you're doing, especially if you're doing something that's clear, or if you're looking for something that has already got a finish coat on it and you don't want to mar the finish. The silicone really works well for that. So let me move on here and get ready and prep out this and get these lenses to be ready to be made. And I need to do a quick, this is a good time right now to just do a quick overall cleanup and make sure that all the parts are clean and the bench is clean, because you'll be doing assembly. And when you're doing assembly, you want the area to be nice and clean. So let me move on to this next session. All right, I have most of the clear, or all the parts for the lenses washed and cleaned and ready to go. So now I wanted to move on and show you guys what we're going to do now here to get this prep for the rails. The best thing I can always say in this situation is what we want to do is, and I'm going to grab something to lay this on so I don't scuff it. It's always good to have a nice piece of bubble wrap or something that you can put down onto the actual model here so it doesn't get wrecked. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to take a rough alignment measurement, and what I'm after is I'm going to do both sides, and how I'm going to do it is I'm going to lay it out like this. And the best way of doing this is just to kind of get a rough idea of the area that you're going to cover. And now I know that it's you know, it's not super wide, so I'm going to cut a little piece of tape, and I'm going to stand this up on edge. Try to see if I can stay straight here so you can see it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to be like, you know, 3/16 outside the edge or close to it. I'm going to lay down a little piece of tape like that. I'll do the same here. Grab one more. And I'm going to lay this across here. And about the same, I'm going to just kind of eyeball it a little bit away from the hole lines, like somewhere, like again, somewhere 3/16 or so, and that should give me a good, and then you can double check it. So I always test it and say, oh, okay, do I cover, I'm not going over the edge. And then just for a little precaution, I'll put it on the other side as well. And over here, I'll just go like that, and then I'll check to make sure the distance coverage is about right. And you want to line these up because they are specific for sizing. So I can tell right now that either, and I'm going to test this, is how close the actual fit is, because I don't think it'll make too much of a difference, but I definitely want to get at least one, the starting hole, allocated and nice, good, and straight as possible. So there, so that's prepped. And then I'm going to flip side, and I'll do the other side as well. But basically all I'm going to do here now is I'm just going to sand this little spot, and then I'll pull the tape off, and then this will be prepared and ready for glue. And then how I'm going to test this, and let me just grab this really fast so you can see it. What I use is, you can either use a really thin piece of like steel rod stock or anything. In this case, I've got this little pin that is one of my preferred little tools, and it will guide the hole. So what I'll do is I'll set it in there, and then I'll guide the hole, and then I'll test it against the other hole. I'll see how close I am. So see, these ones are a little off. So maybe I'll spin it around. And this might even be the other side. That hits the hole. Check another one. You can test one. Mainly I'm after the end pieces. So if this one lines up, and that one almost lines up, so they're close. And now I'll test the other one. So that's that one. And this is this one. And again, let's see how close. Those are pretty close. So those will probably fit. So just pick your sides, whatever one you want, as close as you can. And then once you have found the hole location and you're happy with it, just test test the holes. And these are all lining up really good. So I'll call this one the upper. And then when I tape out the bottom one, I'll test the bottom one. So let me go ahead and sand this, and all I'm going to do is tape this off and sand this, and then I'll come back and go ahead and show you the mount up. And again, it's going to be pretty straightforward. I'm just going to literally be taking these, put a little glue on there, hold it down, find the holing, make sure that it's straight and really good and clean, and then this will be mounted. And that will continue, that will make this part pretty much prepped and ready to go. So let me move on to the next session. Okay, so we went ahead and got this all taped off on the main body parts where the channels are going to be coming in. So all I'm going to do is take a little bit of sandpaper, and I'm just going to very lightly come down here. I'm going to scuff along here where the blue tape was. And again, just, you know, applying some really even pressure on the sanding without trying to go through the tape. You just want to just kind of just scuff it and just get it so it's got a little bit of bite. And what I'll also do is then I'll just kind of wipe this back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple, again, just a couple of abrading it a little bit with the knife so I can get some good adhesion on here. And without going over the line, you feel it. And then I'm going to cut it back the other way just like I did before on the other parts. So you just want to just make some small marks there. And then this will give it a lot of good tooth when you go to glue it. And I'll flip it over. That one feels good. It's got a little ridge on there. I'll flip this one back and do the top side. Same thing. Just going to start with a little bit of sanding. Lightly sand on here. A little bit of pressure. Nothing too heavy. And we'll just go and kind of, you're just kind of just trying to break the paint off the top a little bit so it's got a place to glue. Do that and wipe that clean. Again, I'm going to start with a little bit of cross hatching across here and just do a little bit here and there. Again, don't need to go too aggressive at this point. Okay, I'm going to cross back the other way and make my X. That's what you're kind of looking for when you're cross hatching, is you want to kind of scratch an X out of the area. It gives you more surface space to glue to. That feels pretty good. A couple little more maybe just here and there, and that should do it as far as prepping this for the rail. So now basically when you're done with that, you can basically just kind of hand wipe it off. I'll just go ahead and pull the tape, and maybe when you're doing this, try to pull your tape kind of a little bit slow, because in case you didn't really get a good stick on the paint, you don't want to pull any of the surface paint off there. You also can, take some of the stickiness off of the paint itself or the tape, so it won't stick as strong. And that's what it looks like. And you can't really see it here, but there's just a nice little grooved line all the way down the whole surface area. Maybe you can see it if I turn it kind of a little bit of an angle. But that's prepped. So all I need to do when I'm ready to go and I size these up, I'm going to put a drop here, drop there, drop here, drop there. Done. That's it. That's all it's going to require. Put these rails on. And the rails are, only thing is the rails are, what they're doing is they're supporting the main body section when it goes together, and they just kind of ride on this so you can actually move this back and forth. There's also, when you do this kit, the A Monsters gives you a breakdown for the screws. So if you really want to go detailed, you actually can put screws in these holes to give it a little more detail. But in this case, I think I'm just going to screw down and just call it done and bypass the screws. So anyway, so let's move on to mounting the rails and preparing the lenses is my next kind of final stage in this build process. So let's move on to the next session. Okay, so in this session, what we're going to end up doing is I'm ready to go ahead and glue the lens pieces together with the trim ring. And this is going to be a really straightforward process. I have the main black mounting part, I have the white ring, and the clear lens part. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this all together with silicone. And I've already shown you that what I'm going to do with the silicone setup. It's also a good idea to keep a little bit of a towel or some paper towels with you when you're doing this application, just in case if you get a little overrun and a little mess with the silicone, you'll have a place to wipe it off pretty relatively quickly. So what I like to do first is I just barely get a little bit to come out of the tube, and then what I'll do is I'll just kind of drizzle a little bit around the ring, and not too much because these already snap together in place pretty good. And then all I'll do is I'll just take it, I'll flip it upside down. I'm going to very carefully fit it around the ring edge. And I'm just going to find the sweet spot and I'll just push it in place. And when the silicone dries, this will be really strong. So again, that one's now mounted. Now for the clear part, or the clear dome piece, all I'm going to do here is just put a little dab right in the middle. And what I'm hoping is once I squish it in place, it'll kind of smear out on the clear part and look like it's supposed to. So I'm going to push it in there, and there it is. So when it dries, you should not see any of the clear part of the silicone. It should just kind of go away. And I can press it a couple times, and then that's it for that. So this part's ready to be mounted. Now I'm going to move on to the next one, and again, I'm going to just take a little bit, find the sweet spot on the ring. Okay, so I know now I've got them. I'm going to take a little bit of glue, just kind of wipe it around the edge. And again, nothing too heavy. You can go really light on this stuff, because again, it's already going to be placed, and this thing has a little bit of pressure. So when you apply the pressure on there, it's gonna just lay right in the pocket and be done. Again, have a little rag aside, wipe your fingers off, keep yourself nice and clean when you do this. You just don't want any excess goo from the silicone all over the place. Again, same thing. Going to take the clear part. I've already cleaned it up and washed it. I'm going to take a little daub of the clear silicone and put it in there. And I'm going to just literally smash it into place. And this might take a little bit of finagling because this part was really tight before. So I want to make sure that it really gets in there. And just kind of press it in there and press it in place. And there it goes. Okay, it dropped in the pocket. When the clear silicone, I'm wiping a little of the excess off here. It made a little bit of a mess around the edge. And what you can do is you can just kind of, what the nice thing about the silicone is once it dries, you can kind of just peel it out very carefully, or you can just take a little wet rag and just wipe it back. But in this case, I won't even need to do that. It's just, that's it. And then so I'm going to push these aside, and I'm going to let these actually cure. And you won't be able to tell the difference in the video because I'll pick up the video just right after these things finally get dry, because they won't take a full 24 hours. They will take a full 24 hours to set, but I think right now I can just get these to set prior, and I'm actually gonna add a little more on here to the big lens just so I get a little more coverage out of it. And I'm just gonna add a little more into the cup. And then this should just squeak out on the edge a little bit and we'll be done. So I'll put that in there. Again, being very careful to just kind of mush it in there. And what's nice too is when you push them in there with the silicone, it makes a nice good seal on the top. And then you won't have to worry about any excess when you go to place it in place. And then once it dries, this thing will just be crystal clear, so you won't see anything. And another good thing is with silicone is the silicone kind of gets all over the place if you just even get the smallest mark of it. So make sure to keep your area really clean. I'm going to wipe it down a little bit there. I'll wipe the sides. And then I'm going to let these sit out and dry a little bit and get tacky. And then once these are done and dried, I'll be able to mount them. The area that needs to be lit, or the small little part right here, this one is already so perfectly fit inside the black ring that I don't even need any silicone in there, and it's totally flush and it's ready to go. So all I'm going to need to do is get the clear part mounted in there, and then I can go ahead and I can mount the ring just the way it is. So anyway, so the next stage is putting this onto the lower edge and getting it glued. And in this case, I'm actually going to use a little bit of CA in here. And I've already made these, I've already scuffed these, so these are ready to go. And then all I'm going to do is just mount that on there, and then I'll put the clear part on there, and then we'll work on doing the wiring. And the wiring is going to be really straightforward. It's just one LED in here. And I will clarify that the LED is actually a 4.8 millimeter white, fits inside the bottom side of this perfect. And I'm going to run it pretty bright because I do want it to glow pretty well. So anyway, so let me move on to the next phase here. I'll let these set up a little bit. And again, I actually probably can go ahead and move forward with the rails. But let me do the rails as kind of a separate thing. And then that way you guys can see me mounting the rails. So let me move on to the next session with the rails. Okay, so we're moving on to the rails. And what I'm going to do with the rails is I'm going to use a little bit of CA. And again, like I showed before, I'm going to test fit each one for alignment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my little pin to get my alignment. And that'll get me in close enough. And then I can feel the hole on each side. And that'll get me aligned close enough as far as the rail goes. And again, it's going to sit something like that. So, and then I can feel the other ones, the other holes in there. So that looks good. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start with the one side. And all I'm going to do, in this case, it's a little bit better to probably just put a little bit onto the actual part. And I'm going to make sure I got to clean my tip. It's a little gummed up. Okay, there we go. So that's clean. And again, I got my part here. So what I'm going to do is just put a couple little drops of CA, and they can be very fine. They don't need to be very heavy. And I'm just going to drop them right down the line here. Now that I got it on there, I'm going to align it. I'm going to pre-stick the needle just right down on the spot. And then I'm going to look right underneath there. Make sure my rail's pretty darn close. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to let this thing tack down a little bit. I can already feel it starting to take. And then I'm going to go onto the other side. And I'm going to check my hole, and I'm looking pretty good right there. And then I'm just going to make sure that I'm good and straight. And that looks really good. So once you're on there and you're good and you're happy with it, go ahead and just press a little pressure on there. And just put the pressure down on there, you know, just firm. Try not to move around too much. And let that thing, let the CA take onto the glue edge. And it won't take very long. Again, sometimes I find that if I put just a small amount of glue, it seems to grab even better than trying to put a ton of it on there. Plus, you're dealing with finish, so you don't, you know, since you got all this white finish, you don't want to make too much of a mess. So you want to try to keep yourself clean. So that's that one. Now, I'm pretty happy with that. You can wait a little bit if you like, or you can just go right ahead and move on to the other side, which I think I'm okay to do because it's on there pretty good. Again, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do a little quick alignment test. I'm picking one side to start with. And let's just call it right around there. I'm going to test it against here and see if I can feel it. There, I feel it. I'm picking it up there. There's all the holes. So again, we're going to start with the one side, and then I'll work my way over to this side, and that will keep me nice and aligned. Now, let me go ahead and just put a little bit of CA down here. So again, a bunch of small drops, nothing too overkill. And that's it. And the nice thing about this is when it aligns and gets on there, the rails just kind of hold it in place. They just kind of ride in there. So it's not going to be like, it doesn't have to hold a ton of weight. It's just more to keep everything straight and good. So I'm going to let this tack down a little bit, just like I did on the other one. And just get it to kind of take. Then I'm going to check it against the next hole and the next hole. That feels real good. I'm going to go all the way to the end. And I'm going to feel for the hole. And it feels like I got it. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did last time. I'm going to take a really good clear look down the edge of the rail and make sure that I'm aligned very square on the body. You probably could see it from this angle, but you just want to make sure that, you know, this is nice and plumb and perpendicular to the rest of it. And it looks good right there. I don't think I'm going to force it anymore. So again, apply a little bit of pressure, just holding it down on there. And usually, rule of thumb with CA, depending on the part and how good you get adhesion, it's usually about 10 seconds if you hold it down. Is usually enough. I can go a little bit longer sometimes, and that way you assure that you get a good bond. And so basically I'm just going to hold it here until it's kind of just takes and gets in place. And then just for what it's worth, now that I'm kind of on there, I'm just going to take a real rough random test and get the main body part onto it, so I can make sure that I'm actually, that, you know, that this part actually goes, you know, into the rail. And so, and it is self-explanatory. The rail only fits one way, and it only fits into the model one way. And so I'm just going to just kind of fake it on there, and there you go. See, it's got nice action on there. It still has flexibility to move. Boy, if you really wanted to be really fancy, you could set up a little servo motor on here and have this thing a little linear servo to push it back and forth, but that's a little overkill, you know. I might end up going with sound on this, and I might save that for another video, but that's an easy add-on to put on after. So that just sits there, and that's going to be basically how it's going to stand when you see the finished piece. And this is just a beautiful 1-to-1 scale prop. I'm really loving this. So anyway, so those are ready to go. I'm going to let this dry and stand up a little bit. And also what I'm going to do real quick here is, let me go ahead and put the clear part in, because I decided that I'm just going to CA it in because it's diffused anyway. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put a little bit of glue around the edge. This has a little raised bevel around the edge here. So all I need to do is just drop a couple drops in here. And I've already pre-scuffed the part inside, so it's ready for it. And then I'm going to put a little ray of glue on there. I don't know if you can see that, but there's just a little, you know, I've got, what, six or eight drops going around it. And then that's just going to sit into place inside the cavity here. And it just literally just kind of literally drops into place. And that's how it's going to be mounted. So I'm going to see if you can see that a little bit. But that's where it's going to be mounted, in the corner. And then I'll be able to stick the LED right in the end there. And that'll be how I light it. So when you look around the back side, this will just have, this will be the clear part just looking out at it. So anyway, so this should conclude most of the main parts that need to be assembled. Again, I just want to reiterate that this piece was pre-assembled just because I didn't want to fight this when I went to go put this on. So I mounted this. These are two separate parts. The black piece and this part are separate, and all they need to be done is glued into place into this main upper part, and then just literally just glued down into the pocket. This part fits really nice. It's a really nice, good, clean fit. So I already did that process. But anyway, so now I'm ready, and I'm gonna go check my lenses to make sure my lenses are dry. If my lenses are dry, I can go ahead and just assemble the lenses, and I can move forward on to just doing the lighting and finish this prop up. And that should probably pretty much do this job all the way to completion. So anyway, so let's move on to the next session, and I'll try to make this as fast as I can go. Okay, well, we're back with some of the final assemblies. So basic with the magic of video, I've already put these in here, and they're pretty tacked in, and the lenses are drying pretty well. So I think I'm able to move forward and go ahead and put these pieces in place. So the basic one is we've got the big eye that sits in here, the other smaller lens and eye that sits there, and then this is the lit one that saves actually, on the end here. So what I'm going to do is I've opted to go with a little bit of CA. I was going to go all silicone, but I'm not really too worried about it now because these are nice and tacked up. And so what I'm going to do in here is the basic setup is I'm going to put some dots of CA. Again, nothing too aggressive or heavy with the amount because they fit so perfectly in the tray that I don't think I'll need too much CA to get them to stay. So put a little bead of those on there. We're going to just drop it right into place. Just being careful not to move anything around. And then just align it a little bit, and that's done. We're going to go up to this one. This is the next one. Again, little drops of CA. We'll put a one there, there, and there, and there. That's more than enough. I'm going to flip it upside down and careful not to drip it or make any mess. I'm going to drop that one right in the pocket. I'm going to take a look at it a little bit and see if there's anything that I want to spin it around or line it or anything at this stage, which overall it looks pretty darn good. If anything, I could say I could push it up a little bit, but I'm just going to let it sit in the pocket where it is. Okay, now, and the final piece is going to be this clear part. And again, it already has the diffusion piece already in place. It's already been mounted. Now I just got to take a little bit of this and place it around the edge. I'm going to go ahead and push it into place. And this one fits a little snug. So just kind of press it in there. And that's it. That's all she wrote as far as that's all the parts are all put together minus the lighting. I'm going to do the lighting next, but the lighting is pretty straightforward. I'm only using one LED in here. And again, I might incorporate a little bit later. I might incorporate the sound feature on here so it can talk to you and go through the baseline sequence. But anyway, so that is basically the general model built. This was a really fun project. This is really straightforward. If you're a 2049 Blade Runner fan, this is like really the ultimate must to add to your collection. And again, when I get this all mounted up, and I won't force these around too much because they're still a little wet, but that's what it's going to look like when it's all together and complete. And this is the Yay Monsters finished baseline model completed. And again, you can I'll put in the description where you can actually buy these, and I'll have some finished photos of the model so you guys can see what it looks like completely finished and done, and with the lighting on. I can go through the lighting tutorial for you, but again, it's only going to be one resistor, one LED. This is pretty straightforward, but I might just include it as this last final session to show you what it's going to look like when it's all wired and done and put in place. So let me go through the last session here and get it wired, and we'll take it from there. And again, look for the descriptions that I'm going to put on for where you can buy this kit. And again, it's a resin model. It comes in only a few pieces. It's very simple to assemble and put together, and it just looks super authentic, and it's a 1-to-1 scale. And Yay Monsters just did a wonderful job at doing this prop. So anyway, let me move on to the next session, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so we're here at the final stage. I went ahead and wired up a single LED with an inline resistor, and that's basically what you're seeing right here. And the kit comes with the LED and this little setup for a 9-volt and a switch. And you could mount the switch anywhere you want. And it basically is just set up, and it's just set up on this little 9-volt. And I already tested it and ran it through. And so this is what it looks like when it's all kind of made up in there. And when you flip it over and take a look at it, boy, doesn't that look nice? So that's the finished effect for the eye, one of the lit up eyes there. And that completes the whole process and the whole project. So basically all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to slide this on here. I'm going to put a couple little mounting stops on it. And there is the completed model, all finished. It was an awesome build. This is really fun. It was a fun project. And again, I'll put all the contact information where you can buy this kit. And it's being produced by yaymonsters.com. And boy, if you're into Blade Runner 2049, this is a great looking additional prop to put into your collection. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and look underneath the comments for the links to order this really cool 1-to-1 scale prop. So we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.